All right, welcome to the next video clip here in the Divemaster course. This one's going to deal with the water skills development exercises. And when you look through your instructor manual and the guide to teaching, you'll see there's actually 7 components to this section. There's going to be some swimming, there's going to be some snorkeling, there's going to be a rescue, there's going to be an equipment exchange, and also the skills demonstration workshop. So when you look at this, you'll see that the first 5 components that involve the snorkel swims and the treading water and so on, there your candidates are going to score points. So when you look in the instructor guide, you'll see what defines that point system. It's also on your cue cards as well. Basically, anytime they're going to be swimming or snorkeling, the main goal is that they do it in a non-stop fashion. And then you're also going to be timing them. And then depending on what time they get is the point scoring system. That's what sets that up. So use your cue cards, write it down somewhere, and then bring something that you can use as a timing device when you conduct that. All right, so let's take a look at the swims and the snorkels. Before I talk about them in detail, just a quick reminder. In the third quarter 2022 training bulletin, there was a change to the supervision requirements that you as the instructor watching your candidates doing the swim and the snorkel need to adhere to. And that is that if you're in the pool or your candidates are doing this in the pool, you have to directly supervise, or at least a authorized dive master needs to personally supervise and be ready to enter the water. So you probably can't be doing this watching your candidates while you're fully dressed in regular clothes. That's maybe not a good idea. So be ready to enter the water. Now, if you're doing these in confined water or open water, which are options, not only is it direct supervision, but the requirement is that you're actually in the water with a flotation device as well. And of course, this is for worst case scenario that something happens with your candidates, they get a cramp or worse, and now you or your dive master that's doing this are able to immediately render assistance in there. So don't forget that. All right, so let's take a look at these exercises in detail. Exercise number 1 is the 400 meter or yard swim. And so here, your candidates are going to swim that distance non-stop, like I mentioned. That's really key, is that they do it non-stop. You're also timing them. And then whatever time they get for that distance is going to give you the points, because on your cue card, you have a list of what time equals what points. And same thing in your instructor manual as well. The idea is they do it without any kind of swimming aid, and they can use any stroke, whatever they want, or they can change strokes in the middle of it as well. So whatever gets them to move that distance in a non-stop fashion. Exercise number 2 is the 15-minute tread water. And so the goal here is for them to maintain themselves for that amount of time in water too deep to stand up in. There's no requirement as to what they do, what technique they use to stay there. So they can float on their back, gently sculling to stay there. They can be floating on their front, kind of drown-proofing, taking a breath, going back down again, or treading water with actually leg kicks, etc. Whatever works to keep them at the surface for that amount of time. This exercise, though, has a little extra bit of spice, and that's the last 2 minutes of the 15 minutes. The candidates need to maintain that surface position with both hands out of the water. Right? So it's not 15 plus 2, it's 13 plus 2 hands out of the water for the last 2 minutes. And again, when you look at the evaluation criteria, it's pretty simple. They either do it, and they get a 5, or they have momentary support on the side or the bottom. One time they become a 3, and if they can't, if they do it more than twice, that support, then they score a 1. And if they can't do it at all, they get a 0. Again, the criteria is on your cue cards and in your instructor manual as well. The third exercise is an 800 meter or yard snorkel swim. So here your candidates are going to be in mask, fins, and snorkel. And without any other flotation aid or anything like that, they need to snorkel that distance. And again, you're timing them. And whatever time they get is going to result in a certain point, and that's what you note down. The fourth exercise is the 100 meter or yard inert diver toe. So here you need your dive master candidate in full scuba, and you need to have another diver, whether it's another candidate or someone else that's a certified diver in full scuba, and now your dive master candidate is going to push or pull, whatever they do, to tow the person that distance, again, while you're timing them, right? And then the point they get is based on the time that they secure on that. The fifth exercise in the water skills development is the equipment exchange. And before I go into detail on the equipment exchange, just a quick reminder about the swim and the snorkel. When you look in the instructor manual, you'll see that for each of those first four, there is an exception. So if you have a candidate who has limited leg use or limited arm use, there are some adaptations that you can do that the instructor manual already mentions. So someone who has limited leg use and now they're doing the snorkel swim, where we specifically said don't use the arms, they could use their arms to help them maneuver. If you're not sure about the needs of your particular dive master candidate, if it's someone with a physical challenge, then call your regional training consultant and discuss it beforehand so we can come up with a solution for them. So back to exercise number 5, which is the equipment exchange. So this is a bit of an unusual circumstance. It's not really something we do while we're diving, changing equipment between two divers, but in the Dive Master course, it tests two things. One, it's a problem solving exercise, and secondly, it's a little bit of stress management as well. So the idea is that you get your Dive Master candidates to understand what the exercise is. So you explain to them that they're going to be exchanging all scuba equipment. They're neutrally buoyant. Ideally, they switch scuba equipment. And while doing that, they're breathing off each other's alternate air sources, not the primary second stage. And instead of exchanging masks with each other, they simply remove and replace their own mask. So you want to give them a few minutes to talk about how they plan to do this, so they get a chance to plan it. It's not a surprise exercise, right? Tell them what they need to do, give them a few minutes to talk about it and maybe do a dry run, etc. And then they go in the water, and you don't assign any problems, anything like that. You simply observe them doing this exchange. And then when you look at the scoring criteria, you'll see that for a 5, they do it in a well thought out, efficient manner, no signs of problems, low anxiety level, looks easy, and no one touches the bottom or the sides or the surface. For a 4, they complete the exercise correctly with relatively low anxiety level. There were some challenges that happened, but they resolved them nice and easy. And again, no one touched the bottom or the surface. And then for a 3, they complete the exercise while neutrally buoyant, but there were numerous challenges and which affected the speed and the efficiency of the performance. And this is also a score you can give when you have 2 candidates working and one is overly reliant on the other. Right, and if they're going to earn a 2, this means that they had significant problems doing the exercise, or the exchange was only completed after one or both surfaced at least once. And for a 1, it means that they were unable to complete the exchange, or one or both divers surfacing more than once. So a lot of problems going on. Then we have the 6th element to the water skills development, and this is the diver rescue. And this exercise is something that you can do with your dive master candidates either in open water or in confined water. And so it's nice to do it in confined water when you're doing these other elements as well. So basically, your dive master candidate is going to respond to an unresponsive, non-breathing diver and need to include these steps, which means locate a diver underwater, a submerged diver, and you're going to bring them up to the surface and then turn them face up, establish buoyancy, and basically get into exercise number 7 from the rescue diver course. So this is really a combination of exercise number 6 and exercise number 7 from the rescue diver course. So remember, we have some video clips that show those if you want some hints and tips in there. But basically, it's an assessment of a dive master candidate to make sure they are still able to do an effective rescue should it be needed in there. And again, the instructor manual and guide to teaching will give you some reminders and pointers. And then the 7th element of the water skills development is the famous skill circuit. So for that, really encourage you to own a skill evaluation slate, because this allows you to have all the 24 skills on here, as well as a place for you to note down how they score. And the scoring, the way that you evaluate them is the same as you went through in your own IDC. If the candidate can do the exercise correctly, they're scoring a 3. If they're doing it correctly and slowly, beginning to show the details, they're scoring a 4. And if they do it correctly, slowly, and showing some exaggerated points within the conduct of that skill, then it appears easy and they're scoring 5s. So it's only if they have a difficulty or an error that you're going to maybe be scoring it as a 2, and if they can't do it at all, it's a 1. Remember, in the Divemaster skill circuit, there's 2 skills that are a little bit different from when you went through your IDC. So for mask removal, replacement, and clearing, and the regulator recovery and clearing, those 2 skills, the ask is that they do it neutrally buoyant in order to score a 5. So if they do it slow, correct, and exaggerated, but they still have they're not neutrally buoyant, they're scoring a 4. That's the maximum. So they want to be neutrally buoyant. What's neutrally buoyant? It could be that they're maintaining their neutral buoyancy with a little bit of contact, sort of like a fin pivot, for example, or they can be right out hovering as well in trim or in any kind of position. But you want to see that they're neutrally buoyant when they're doing this. A little note here. When you do this skill circuit, we're really testing the Divemaster candidate's expertise in doing these skills. So we want to see them do it slowly, correctly, and exaggerated. And then we add the neutral buoyancy to really show that this is someone who's highly comfortable in the water and they can do this neutrally buoyant. When they're teaching these skills, sure, you can do them neutrally buoyant. But again, look at it from the perspective of the student diver, an open water student diver. Now, if they see you or your dive masters doing these skills neutrally buoyant, they've never tried them, it may not be conducive to learning. So when you demonstrate these skills to an open water diver student, there is no requirement that anyone does it neutrally buoyant, except for the neutral buoyancy skills, like the gently rising and falling or hovering in there. So that's the difference in there. So you would have them go through this and you tally up the scores. And when you look at the evaluation criteria, every skill needs to be at least a 3, in other words, correct. But they also need to have at least 1 skill out of 5 to show that they understand the exaggeration portion. And the total points scored across the 24 needs to be 82. So again, that's in your instructor guide. And you've got the slate as a great tool here as well. So we'll see some of this in the water, as I mentioned, the equipment exchange. And then any questions, give us a call.